You think you know yourself, but you have no idea what you carry inside. The truth is this: most people never face real solitude. They surround themselves with noise, with distractions, with endless validation, anything to avoid being left alone with their own thoughts. They cannot bear silence, they cannot face themselves. But you were thrown into the darkness, and the darkness does not lie. It strips you bare, it removes the masks, it shows you exactly what you are. For most, that discovery is unbearable. Solitude feels like suffocation. The quiet becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they see their weakness exposed. They run, they escape into crowds, into meaningless company, into shallow approval. They think being surrounded makes them strong, but it only makes them dependent. And dependence is death. But a very few, survive the darkness. They endure the silence. They face rejection. They survive nights where their own mind turns against them. And they do not break. No, they sharpen, they harden, they transform. You see, loneliness is not weakness. It is a trial by fire, a crucible where the fragile shatter and the rare emerge unbreakable. Those who endure it learn what others will never understand. When you need no one can control you. Society will not tell you this. They will say, you must fit in, you must be social, you must never walk alone. But that's because society fears the ones who walk alone. The loner is unreadable. The loner is untouchable. The loner becomes dangerous. Machiavelli himself warned that rulers must never be predictable, never be completely understood. He knew that mystery creates power. And what is solitude if not the birthplace of mystery? You've felt it, haven't you? The way people look at you when you're quiet, when you don't play their games, they can't read you, they don't know if you're weak or if you're far stronger than they imagine. And that uncertainty terrifies them. That's why they tell you solitude is unhealthy. That's why they shame the loner. Not because it is weakness, but because it is power they cannot control. And so, here you are, standing at the edge of the darkness. Most who enter it never return. But if you survive it, you will emerge as something they will never understand. Sharp, cold, sovereign. This video is not for everyone. It is not for the weak. It is not for the dependent. This is only for the loners, the ones willing to face the darkness, survive it, and claim the strength it hides. The question is not whether the darkness is dangerous. The question is this: will you survive it? They told you silence is weakness, that quiet means empty, that if you don't speak, you'll be ignored. But Machiavelli knew the truth. Silence is never emptiness. Silence is a weapon. Look at the world around you. Everyone is addicted to noise, addicted to showing off, addicted to validation. They cannot go 5 minutes without announcing what they think, what they feel, what they want. They post every thought, every movement, every small victory, desperate to be noticed. And in their desperation, they become predictable. Easy to read, easy to control, but not you. Not the loner who has survived the darkness. When you stop filling every space with noise, you force people to confront something terrifying: the unknown. They can read anyone who talks too much, but they cannot read you, and what they cannot read, they fear. Your silence unsettles them. Your silence forces them to reveal themselves first. Your silence becomes your shield. History remembers this law. Julius Caesar once said, "Silence is a lesson in itself." He knew that by holding back, he gained more information than he lost. Enemies exposed their plans and their eagerness to speak, while he waited, listening, watching, preparing. Machiavelli himself warned rulers, never reveal all your intentions. Keep people guessing. An enemy who cannot predict you has already lost half the battle. That is why silence builds power. It creates mystery. It forces others into the open, and it protects you from handing them the keys to your own mind. Think of the people you know, the ones who talk endlessly, always explaining themselves, always defending themselves, always trying to be understood. Do they command respect, or do they look weak? Now, think of the rare ones who speak little, who let their words drop like stones into a pond, few but heavy. Those are the ones people notice. Those are the ones people remember. Those are the ones people fear. You must become that. Silence is not passive. Silence is active power. It allows you to observe what others miss. You begin to notice the small things, the hesitation in their voice, the contradiction in their story, the way their eyes shift when they lie. Words disguise, but silence exposes. This is why the loner sees deeper than the herd. While others drown in constant chatter, you are listening to the spaces in between, and that space, that pause, is where the truth hides. But here's the hard part. Silence demands discipline. Your ego will beg you to speak, to prove yourself, to explain yourself. You will feel the urge to defend, to justify, to respond to every provocation. That urge is a trap. Every time you break silence to satisfy your ego, you give away your position. You hand your enemy a map to your weaknesses. The herd will tempt you with their noise. They will bait you into arguments. They will demand that you reveal what you think, what you plan, what you feel. Do not take the bait, because the moment you explain yourself to those who don't deserve it, you lose your advantage. Think of Tesla, mocked, ridiculed, ignored. While others wasted themselves arguing for attention, he worked in silence. And when he revealed his inventions, the world could not look away. Silence had sharpened his vision until it became undeniable. That is your model, to remain silent not because you are weak, but because you are preparing a strike that cannot be ignored. Remember this law. Silence builds kings. Noise builds slaves. The talkative man sells his soul cheaply. The quiet man multiplies his value. When you walk into a room and speak nothing, you create tension. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder if you're judging them. They wonder if you see through them. And in that wondering, they expose themselves. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. This is the first law of surviving the darkness. Resist the temptation of noise. Do not hand out your voice like loose change. Do not reveal your plans before they are weapons. The herd fears silence because they fear themselves. But you, the loner, the survivor, must embrace it. Because in a world drowning in noise, silence is the sharpest blade. The herd needs you predictable. They need you needy. They need you dependent. Because a man who is predictable can be controlled. And a man who can be controlled is no threat. That is why society whispers its rules into your ear from the day you are born. Smile when told. Explain yourself when questioned. Seek approval. Never stand alone. They don't say this because it makes you strong. They say it because it makes you safe. Safe for them. The truth is darker. Society does not fear the weak. It feeds on them. What society truly fears are the ones who no longer need it. The loner who stops chasing applause. The outsider who refuses to kneel. The man who does not explain himself. Because the unreadable man terrifies them. Machiavelli himself taught that unpredictability is a weapon. A ruler who can be predicted is already defeated, but one who moves in ways others cannot anticipate controls the entire board. Think of it. The king who announces every move can be cornered. The king who hides his intent rules from the shadows. It is the same with you. When you stop living like an open book, when you refuse to broadcast your emotions, when you cut the chains of approval, you become unreadable, and unreadable people are feared. Look at history. Stalin was feared not because of what he said, but because of what no one could predict he would do. His silence in meetings made men sweat. His unpredictability destroyed their confidence before a word was spoken. They lived in terror, not of what they saw, but of what they could not see. Now, imagine yourself. You, unreadable, untouchable. People cannot tell if you are with them or against them. They don't know if you are weak or far stronger than they ever imagined. That uncertainty becomes your crown. But here's the trap most fall into. They trade mystery for comfort. They want to be liked. They want to be understood. They want to be predictable because predictability feels safe. And in that safety, they become slaves. Predictable responses, predictable routines, predictable weakness. Do you see it? The herd fears losing control. They will ridicule the loner. They will call you arrogant, cold, strange. They will demand your compliance. But what they are truly saying is this: your unpredictability makes us powerless. This is why the loner who survives the darkness is dangerous. He cannot be manipulated by praise. He cannot be paralyzed by threats. He cannot be bought with approval. And so, the herd does the only thing it can. It turns against you. Because what it cannot control, it must destroy. But here is the inversion they don't want you to realize. The more they fear you, the more powerful you become. The more unreadable you are, the more respect you command. Nietzsche once wrote that those who walk alone are destined to face ridicule because their independence exposes the dependence of the crowd. The herd mocks the loner not because he is weak, but because he reminds them of their own chains. And this is where your transformation begins. When you stop begging to be understood, when you stop explaining yourself to the blind, when you stop kneeling before the herd's approval, you rise. You become the unreadable one, the one who cannot be pinned down, the one who controls the field, not by what you show, but by what you hide, and they fear you for it. This is the second law of surviving the darkness. Do not be predictable. Do not let them know your next move. Do not give them the comfort of understanding you, because in the moment they think they know you, you are already in chains. But the loner who survives the fear of the herd, the loner who becomes unreadable, that man is sovereign. That man is untouchable. That man is feared. The herd cannot stand to be unseen. They crave constant attention, constant applause, constant recognition. They think exposure equals power. But exposure makes you weak. Exposure makes you predictable. Exposure makes you disposable. True strength is built in shadows. True strategy grows in silence. The loner does not show his hand until the strike cannot be stopped. This is the anonymity principle, and it separates the forgotten from the feared. History has proven this law again and again. The greatest generals never revealed their movements until it was too late. Hannibal crossing the Alps, unseen by the Roman legions, striking them from where they thought no army could come. Alexander the Great, disguising his intent until his enemies collapsed from surprise. Their power was not just in their armies. It was in their ability to remain invisible until the decisive moment. Machiavelli himself warned rulers to guard their plans like treasure. Because the moment the enemy sees your design, they begin to tear it down. But when you move in silence, your work sharpens unnoticed, and by the time the herd realizes, the outcome is already sealed. Think of Tesla again. While Edison fought for recognition, clawing for attention, Tesla worked in obscurity, and when he revealed his vision, it shook the world. His ideas were impossible to ignore, not because he shouted louder, but because he built quietly until his silence became thunder. This is your path, not to scatter your energy proving yourself every day, not to seek applause for steps that mean nothing, but to vanish into the shadows, to work where no one is watching, and to return only when your creation cannot be denied. Ask yourself, why do you post your every thought? Why do you need people to see every step you take? What is their applause by you? Nothing. It is borrowed strength. It is noise disguised as validation. But when you disappear, when you stop feeding them pieces of your progress, you take back the power. They begin to wonder. They begin to speculate. And speculation is the most exhausting trap of all. While they waste their energy guessing, you conserve yours building. The herd hates this. They want you visible, predictable, explainable. Because the moment you disappear, they lose control. They can't track you. They can't label you. They can't prepare for you. And then, when you reappear, it is too late. Your silence has already sharpened into inevitability. Your presence becomes an earthquake they cannot ignore. This is the third law of surviving the darkness. Do not announce your every move. Do not reveal your strategy for cheap applause. Do not trade your mystery for attention. The herd believes power is being seen. But the loner knows power is being unseen until the strike. Because when you master the anonymity principle, you no longer chase recognition. You dictate when and how the world sees you. And that is when you become untouchable. Every power has a cost. Every crown leaves scars. The loner who survives the darkness does not walk an easy road. He pays in hunger. He pays in doubt. He pays in nights where the silence feels like it is tearing his mind apart. This is the price of solitude. Most people cannot bear it. They collapse under the weight of their own thoughts. They crave distraction, even if it destroys them. They will sell their soul for company, even if that company poisons them. That is why the herd clings to each other, not because they love each other, but because they fear themselves. But you endured what they could not. You sat in silence. You wrestled with your demons. You fought wars inside your own head. And because of that, you emerged different. Solitude taught you detachment. It freed you from the chains of flattery. It made you immune to threats. The man who has survived nights of inner war cannot be controlled by compliments. He cannot be paralyzed by insults. He cannot be bribed with shallow recognition. Because he knows the truth, the worst has already been faced. Machiavelli warned that rulers who depended too much on the approval of others were weak, for approval can be given today and stolen tomorrow. But the sovereign who stood alone, who owed nothing to anyone, could not be bent by fortune or fear. That is what the darkness gave you. Yes, it demanded a price. It stripped you, tested you, tried to break you. But in the end, it forged immunity. The herd sees solitude as punishment, but for you, it became a passage. And here lies the question that decides everything. Are you willing to pay that price? Can you endure the hunger, the doubt, the nights where your own mind feels like an enemy? If you can, you will walk out sharper, colder, freer than anyone around you. If you cannot, you will crawl back to the herd, desperate for chains disguised as comfort. This is the fourth law of surviving the darkness. Every power is bought. The loner buys his with pain, but the pain you endure in solitude buys a freedom no one can take away. Power is not always in what you show. Often, it is in what you refuse to reveal. Mystery creates value. Scarcity creates desire. Distance creates fear. The herd does not understand this. They flood the world with themselves. They talk endlessly, post constantly, appear everywhere. They think visibility will make them important, but overexposure destroys value. The more you see something, the less it matters. The loner who survives the darkness knows better. You do not reveal every thought. You do not give away every move. You do not allow yourself to be everywhere. Instead, you cultivate absence. And absence is not emptiness. Absence is power. When your presence is rare, people crave it. When your silence is deep, people imagine what it hides. And imagination is more powerful than any reality. This is why mystery terrifies them. When people cannot predict you, they begin to invent stories about you. They wonder if you are dangerous. They whisper if you are plotting. They fear what they cannot define. And that fear becomes your shield. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He advised rulers to remain untouchable, distant, even feared. Because a ruler who is too familiar loses majesty. The sovereign who keeps a veil of mystery commands more respect than one who is constantly available. You must become that sovereign. The herd believes value comes from being accessible. The loner knows value comes from being rare. When your presence is controlled, when your words are scarce, when your actions are unpredictable, you transform. You stop being just another man. You become a myth. And myths are untouchable. This is the fifth law of surviving the darkness. Do not give them all of you. Do not be predictable. Do not be everywhere. Because when you are unreadable, you are dangerous. And when you are dangerous, you are free. This is the moment of truth. The moment when everything you have endured, the silence, the fear of the herd, the nights of solitude, the hidden work, the cultivated mystery, forges into something new. You are no longer just a loner, you are becoming sovereign. The world told you loneliness was weakness. That silence meant emptiness. That solitude was punishment. But you have seen the inversion of truth. Silence is a weapon. Solitude is training. Mystery is power. And now, the trial of darkness completes its work. The old you, dependent, predictable, desperate for validation, must die here. The self that begged to be understood, that lived for the herd's approval, that feared being alone. He cannot survive this passage. Let him die, because in his place rises something sharper, colder, unreadable, you, the one who does not explain, the one who does not kneel, the one who is no longer trapped in the emotional market where men sell themselves cheap for attention. You are no longer a product for others to consume. You are the sovereign who controls access. And when access is limited, value explodes. This is why the sovereign does not shout. He waits. He does not chase. He chooses. His presence is rare, his silence heavy, his movements impossible to predict. And for that, he is feared. Machiavelli taught that it is safer to be feared than loved, because love can be taken, but fear endures. But he also knew the highest power belonged not to the tyrant who displayed strength constantly, but to the ruler who mastered when to appear and when to vanish. That is now your art. From the herd's perspective, you are dangerous because they cannot read you, they cannot label you, they cannot place you in their hierarchy. You stand outside of it, untouchable. That distance unsettles them because it forces them to confront their own chains. And so, you become the sovereign. The loner is not rejected, he rejects. The loner is not ignored, he ignores. The loner is not forgotten, he chooses when to be remembered. This is your rebirth. Do you feel it? The chains snapping, the noise fading, the weight of needing anyone burning away. This is not motivation, this is metamorphosis. The weak man is buried, the sovereign rises. You are no longer playing the game of the herd, you are writing your own. You no longer seek entry. You build your own gates, you no longer ask for respect, your silence demands it. The darkness that was supposed to break you has become your crown. From this moment, your presence is a weapon. Your absence is punishment. Your silence is law. This is the sixth law of surviving the darkness. Do not just survive, transform. Do not remain a loner, become sovereign. Because the loner is feared in the shadows, but the sovereign rewrites the rules of the entire world. You have walked through the darkness, you have endured silence, paid the price, embraced the mystery, and if you are still here, still listening, it means you survived what most never could. Understand this. Once you cross this threshold, there is no going back. You cannot return to the herd. You cannot crawl again into the comfort of chains, because you have seen the truth. And truth burns bridges behind you. From this moment forward, you are no longer just a loner, you are sovereign. You choose when to appear, when to vanish, when to strike. Your silence is law, your absence is power, your presence is a crown. The herd will not understand you. They will try to pull you back, shame you, demand that you explain yourself. Do not explain, do not kneel, do not return. You now belong to a path that few dare to walk, a path of cold strength, of unreadable silence, of untouchable power. And now you take the oath, not to me, not to this channel, but to yourself. Every time you like, every time you comment, every time you subscribe, it is not a favor, it is not casual support, it is a declaration, a ritual, an oath that says, I will never return to the herd. I choose the sovereign's path. So, write your words below. Prove to yourself that you understood. Mark this moment so you never forget it. Because the herd may forget, but you will not. And remember the warning Machiavelli gave to princes and rulers. It is better to be feared than ignored. Carry that truth like a blade. Let it shape your silence. Let it guard your presence. Let it remind you that from this day forward, you are not one of them. You have stepped into the darkness. You have survived it. And now you rise,